Hi, I'm Val from Quilty Pleasures, and today we're going to talk about hygiene for your machine. We get a lot of machines in for servicing with complaints like it's not stitching properly, it's not feeding properly, the bobbin sensor isn't working, and a lot of times those issues are caused just because the machine is dirty. And so it's good practice to keep your machine cleaned out, and I'm going to show you how to do it and show you some tools that make it a little bit easier. And I'm going to tell you why it's a good idea, what can happen if you don't clean your machine regularly. So come on over here and we'll take a look. We have been trying to keep this machine fairly clean, so I don't know how bad it'll be today, but we'll see. So I'm going to take out the bobbin. I've taken the foot off the machine just because it makes it easier to see. The FAF machines have pop-off needle plates, so I'm just going to stick my screwdriver in there and pop that guy off. Other plates on other models of machines need screwdrivers to remove the plate, so there'll be one or two screws on your needle plate. And often your machine will come with a screwdriver, but it may be too long to fit comfortably in this spot. And so this little stubby screwdriver is very handy when you're in a tight space. And this is the old red style. Now we have the jazzy, glittery gold one, and it's $3.99. So worth it. Just makes it easier to get into those tight spots. So I don't need that. Okay, so I've taken the needle plate off, and now I'm going to take off this cover over the bobbin case, and this is the bobbin case. It just lifts right out. Put those out of the way. And this is the area where the bobbin case sits, and this is where a lot of lint and dust and stuff accumulates. And it can actually accumulate to the point where it raises the height of the bobbin case. This can cause a lot of damage. It'll affect your stitch quality for sure, but eventually it can damage your machine, and that can cost a lot of money. So we want to keep that clean. And your machine probably came with a brush. They're generally not the best, but they'll do. This is the fat brush. It's called the Fine Sewing Brush from Tooltron, and it has a nice big fluffy head, but it doesn't cause fluff. You can get in there and get a lot of that stuff out, so that's nice and easy. But it only gets the surface. Look at, oh, I did get that. That's pretty good.
Way to go.
Yeah, way to go. But sometimes you need to go a little bit deeper and be a little bit more detailed. And these, my bobbin out of the way here. These are the cleaning brushes from Eleanor Burns. She's brilliant. She's been sewing a long time, and she came up with these guys. They're kind of like high-tech Q-tips. They're very thin. The end is a bit flexible. You can kind of bend it, and it's got a little microfiber tip to it. We do not recommend that you use real Q-tips, because that is just compressed cotton on the end of the stick. It's very inflexible, and it's a little bit fat. But if you get poking around in there, that cotton can come loose and leave cotton behind. You're trying to clean it out. You're not trying to add more to it. So Q-tips are not a good idea. But these with the little microfiber tips will not shed. They don't leave anything, but they act like a magnet, and they actually attract a lot of stuff out. And they're so tiny, so you can get into these tiny little areas where your big fat brush maybe can't. And look at what I'm getting. And that, I just went over.
This machine like 2 days ago?
2 days ago. Yeah, it doesn't take much. But see, it just kind of pulls it like a magnet. It's great. And you can get into all of these tiny little areas and kind of attract stuff that's gotten even where you can't really see it. Oh, that's a good one. Yuck. Ugh. One thing that we tend to overlook, and this is important, these are your feed dogs here. And these with the little grippers here, that's what pulls your fabric through when you're sewing. It determines your stitch length and how evenly your fabric feeds, how straight it feeds. So if lint builds up in here between and on top of those teeth, it's going to affect how your fabric is fed, and it's going to make a difference to your sewing. So you're going to get crooked seams, wobbly stitches, uneven feed. So we want to keep these clean. So these little guys are just the right size. Look at that. Look at what I'm getting. Look at that. Good cleaning 2 days ago, Amy.
I didn't do the feed dogs. Honestly.
Oh, okay. All right. You're forgiven. So anyway, it gets right in there and it cleans all that stuff out, and you can kind of go over the teeth and make sure that, whoops, there's a glob there. Yeah, so you can keep that all clean. These are the scissors. So you just want to make sure that there are no, I'll show you how the scissors work. It's cool. Oh, I'm not in sewing mode. Here we go. Now I'll show you how the scissors work. So this happens to be on the performance icon, but the system is pretty much the same for all different machines. So it's a blade here, it slides over and cuts your thread. And sometimes thread will get caught in between the blade, and there's usually a little brush there that kind of works with it. So I always have tweezers handy. And I like the Bowen ones because they've got a bent tip and it's very, very fine. So you can get in and pull loose threads out. There aren't any in here at the moment. Or if there are any threads caught around the dogs or in the hook area, that you can clean that, and they can be very precise. Another thing, with the really old machines, you could kind of open this all up and it was all exposed. And with the newer ones, there's so many electronics and doodads in there. They don't want you poking around, but you still have to keep it clean. So every once in a while, I put these attachments on my household vacuum cleaner, and they're tiny. So there's a little brush, a little crevice, 2 little brushes, a little crevice tool, a couple of wands, so that you can clean out the stuff that you cannot reach. We do not recommend that you use canned air on your machine because it just pushes the dirt further in where you'll never get it out. It makes it totally inaccessible. It also introduces moisture, and you don't want to do that. You also don't want to just, we're all tempted to do this, but you don't want to blow into your bobbin case area because, again, it introduces moisture. So don't blow, don't use canned air. You can use a vacuum cleaner with the attachments. Don't just take your household vacuum cleaner and start poking around. It's too big, too powerful. So use the attachments that'll kind of calm things down. And
We've had a customer suck up her bobbin case.
Yeah, you don't want to suck up your bobbin case because then you have to go through the bag and ugh.
She just bought a new one.
Okay. Smart. This one has a very tiny hose, so those things won't happen. It's designed for computers, for sewing machines, those kinds of things. If you have a FAF machine, they do not require oil. Some of the older machines do require oil. Your manual will tell you where to oil and how often, how to apply it. Do not use canola oil or olive oil or anything that you just have hanging around the kitchen. You want to have sewing machine oil. It's much, much, much finer and suited to a sewing machine. So this is the stuff you want to get. And what's neat about it is this expandable tube. This I have to cut this, but it lets you get into those inner areas where you need to oil on the older machines. So this is the stuff, and it'll last you a long, long time, and it is not expensive. So that's what you use if you need that. What else? I find it handy. We don't sell these. We can't get them. There it is. I've bought myself a dental mirror. You can get it at Shoppers Drug Mart. It's a couple bucks. And I have found it very handy if you need to, if you're changing your needle and you can't see where the hole is, or if you need to look around inside, just like it helps your dental hygienist look at your mouth, this gives you access to some of the places that are a little bit harder to see unless you want to stand on your head, and I'm too old for that. So this is a great little addition to your toolkit. So clean your machine after every project minimum. If you're working with things like flannel or microfibers that kind of shed, or bamboo batting, things that have kind of loose fibers, clean more often, because you'll notice that when you're using those kinds of fibers, it will accumulate more quickly. But yeah, every project, just rule of thumb, that's a good way to go. And then you want to bring in your machine for a tune-up and a cleaning every year, year and a half, depending on how often you sew. And the technician does open up the machine. He's allowed to go underneath there and see what's what, so he can clean all that out and make sure that everything's operating smoothly. If your machine sounds at all rough, sometimes it's just a simple matter of changing the needle, and if you joined us for the Rhonda presentation, you'll know she explained all about that. So try that first. But if your machine is sounding rough, it's probably time for a deep cleaning and a day at the spa. So bring it in for a tune-up, and everybody will be happy, your machine will be happy, and your sewing will be much better. You'll notice a difference, and yeah, so just keep it clean.